Welcome to our deep dive into Qigong and inner peace. We're exploring Robert Peng's book, The Way of Virtue, to see what kind of wisdom we can unearth.
This book is great. It's a blend of ancient wisdom and how it applies to us today.
Yeah, the first thing that really jumped out at me were the endorsements of Daniel Goleman, Donna Eden. Talk about heavy hitters in the mindfulness and energy world, right?
Absolutely. They definitely make you pay attention. But honestly, it's Peng's personal story that I found so interesting.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
Okay, so imagine this. As a child, he's learning Qigong, right? But from a secluded monk named Xiao Yao.
Wow, okay, that's not your average childhood. It sounds like something out of like a kung fu movie.
Right. And get this, part of his training, 100 days meditating.
Yeah.
In a dark chamber.
100 days in the dark. I can only imagine the level of focus that would take. I mean, no wonder he's considered a master of Qigong.
It really speaks to his dedication, I think, to understanding the human experience, which is a lot of what this book digs into, like those big questions about life, death, our place in the universe.
Absolutely. Those questions that we've all wrestled with at some point, especially during times of uncertainty.
Exactly.
And speaking of understanding the human experience, Peng breaks down the mind into 4 aspects: spirit, pure mind, higher mind, and practical mind. It's like he's giving us this map to our inner world.
Yeah, and just like any map, right, it can help us navigate, in this case, the complexities of life and how to cultivate that sense of inner peace.
Okay, I like that analogy. So let's zoom in on these 4 aspects, shall we? Starting with spirit, what's Peng's take on that?
Well, he calls it this unified, peaceful state, something we all have, but it often gets drowned out by just the noise and demands of, life.
So how do we reconnect with that innate sense of peace?
Meditation, that's key for him. He compares it to waking up from a really good sleep. You have that feeling of wholeness before that to-do list starts to scroll through your mind.
I know that feeling all too well.
Right. So meditation, he's arguing, it helps us access that same peace, but consciously, so we can carry it with us throughout the day.
I see, that makes sense. But let's face it, the world, it's rarely peaceful or unified, which brings us to Peng's concept of duality. Right?
Exactly, and he breaks it down into 2 types, greater duality and lesser duality. So greater duality, that's those fundamental struggles, good versus evil, dark and light, that kind of thing.
The big epic battles.
Exactly. But it's the lesser duality where it gets really interesting, especially in today's world that feels so well polarized.
All right, you've piqued my curiosity. Tell me more about this lesser duality.
Okay, so think of it as the realm of relative truths, where things aren't so black and white, like political viewpoints, social issues, even personal preferences. There isn't always a clear right or wrong, but we tend to get so caught up in defending our own perspectives that we miss the bigger picture.
And that's where things can get messy. We dig in our heels, cling to our side of this story, and suddenly forget about even having productive conversation, let alone finding common ground.
Exactly, and that's where higher mind comes in. Peng's point is that it's not about taking sides, but finding a way to integrate different views.
Okay, let's unpack higher mind then. How does it help us navigate these tricky waters of relative truths?
Okay, picture this. You're facing a stressful situation, right? Your practical mind wants to react, maybe fire off that angry email or confront someone directly. But higher mind, it encourages you to pause, to reflect, to consider other perspectives. It asks, is there a different approach? What would lead to a more peaceful resolution?
It's like that inner voice that urges us to take the higher road, even when it's tempting to get pulled down into the drama.
Exactly. And that's where the real growth happens.
So instead of being swept up in the heat of the moment, higher mind helps us find a more balanced and compassionate way to respond.
Exactly. It's that part of us that understands nuance, seeks understanding, and sees beyond just right or wrong, good or bad. It allows for common ground and for us to navigate conflict with more, grace and wisdom.
It sounds like a powerful ally, this higher mind, in helping us cultivate inner peace, especially in our increasingly complex world.
Absolutely, and Peng gives some really practical tools and techniques to access and strengthen it, which brings us to the heart of his book, Qigong.
So Qigong, it's about more than just like physical postures and breathing, right? It's about tapping into this deeper energy that flows through us.
Yeah, exactly. And Peng really emphasizes the connection between this energy, our emotions, even how our organs function.
Okay, so how does that work?
He talks about each organ having its own kind of voice, its unique energy signature. It's like our body is this whole orchestra.
I like that. But what happens when, say, one of the instruments is out of tune?
That's when things can get interesting. Peng suggests that imbalances in our organs' energy, those can show up as emotional or even physical discomfort. He talks a lot about the liver, for instance, calls it the general.
The general.
Yeah, because it's associated with, courage, assertiveness, decision-making.
Okay, so if my liver energy is low, does that mean I'm destined to be indecisive and fearful?
Not at all. It's all about balance, right? And Qigong gives us tools to understand and work with these energies. And since you're interested in Qigong, it might be worth exploring practices that focus on the liver, especially during its peak time.
Peak time. Are we talking about the meridian clock now?
Exactly. Peng explains how each organ system has like this 2-hour window when its energy is strongest. For the liver, it actually happens to be between 1 and 3 in the morning.
So even while we sleep, there's a lot going on. But what about those of us who, well, aren't exactly night owls? Any tips for fitting the meridian clock into a regular schedule?
Absolutely. It's not about being rigid, but more about understanding your body's natural rhythms. Like the spleen's peak time is between 9 and 11 a.m., which makes it great for focused work or decision-making.
So instead of scheduling that important meeting for 2 p.m. when I'm usually dragging, maybe aim for 10 a.m. and tap into that spleen energy.
Exactly. It's about working with your body, not against it. And Peng provides a whole range of techniques to try.
Speaking of techniques, I was really drawn to his description of qi steaming with Qigong. It sounds incredibly powerful.
It is considered a more advanced practice. Peng describes it as cleansing and rejuvenating the organs with primordial qi, that fundamental life force energy.
So it's like a spa day for our internal organs.
He gives really detailed instructions, even talking about creating a qi cauldron, a qi fire within the body. It's quite visual.
Wow, that sounds intense but fascinating. Is it really possible to create those sensations just through breath and visualization?
That's the amazing thing about Qigong. It teaches us to tune into those subtle but powerful energies within us.
It's like we have this incredible inner power. We just need to learn how to tap into it. And Peng's book gives us the guidebook, it seems. It's pretty amazing when you think about it. We have all this energy within us just waiting to be explored.
Yeah, and that's what I appreciate about Peng's message. It's not just about feeling better physically, but tapping into something deeper, a deeper sense of peace and understanding.
Definitely. And that journey of self-discovery, it's so fascinating to me. Speaking of journeys, the end of the book takes this really interesting turn with Peng's dream encounter with Laozi.
Oh yeah, the founder of Taoism.
Exactly. It felt almost mystical, like this transmission of wisdom.
It's powerful imagery for sure. So Peng finds himself in this ethereal, heavenly meadow with all these people. Some are asleep, some have even passed away, but they're all connected by this invisible thread of Tao.
Wow, it's like a gathering of souls from across time and space. So what happens? What does Laozi have to say to this group?
Well, he talks about the importance of unlearning, emptying our cups of all our preconceived notions and beliefs. He asks them this really thought-provoking question: who is dreaming the world? Who is dreaming you?
Wow. Who is dreaming the world?
Laozi points to emptiness, to Tao itself as the dreamer of all dreams. He suggests that by connecting with this formless, nameless source, we can access a deeper truth, one that goes beyond the limitations of our individual minds.
I see. So it's not just about finding inner peace, but about recognizing that connection, that interconnectedness with everything, with the very fabric of reality. It's like Peng's journey. It's taken us from these practical Qigong techniques to these profound philosophical insights.
Exactly. And the last line of the book, he says, "Follow the way of virtue and you will attain perfect peace." It's like an open invitation to continue the journey, to explore these practices, and to really deepen our understanding of ourselves and the universe.
And ultimately, to cultivate that inner peace we've been talking about, which can then ripple outwards into the world.
Exactly.
Well, this has been an incredible exploration of Robert Peng's The Way of Virtue. What a journey. I know I've learned a lot, and I hope our listeners have too.
Me too. It's been a pleasure diving into this with you.
Likewise. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll leave you with Laozi's question to ponder. Who is dreaming the world? Who is dreaming you? Until next time, may your journey be filled with peace and discovery.